Thanks for joining the show today. Two guests I have you'll probably recognize from their show Live It Up on this very channel. Fletcher Ellison and his wife, Dr. Amy Ellison, will join me today. First, we'll talk with Fletcher. I wanted to have a conversation with both of them from two different points of view, but also an all angles point of view. And Fletcher is a life coach, and we've had a couple of conversations on the air and off the air about the situation and the plight of our country, of our community. And I don't spend a lot of time talking about that on this show because I want to give you something else to listen to and watch for half an hour every day. But I thought with the turn of the calendar this year that in conversations with friends and colleagues that there's a little disenchantment, probably a lot of disenchantment, thinking 2021 would somehow turn a page of the calendar and start anew. And there's some disappointment in how the year has started out. And I wanted to have Fletcher and Dr. Amy Ellison on the show today to talk about what we can do in our own homes, in our own little corner of the world, in our community, to make it better for ourselves and everyone around us. So I have Fletcher here joining me. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
I reached out to you for the very reasons that I just described, and I thought you might be chatting with people as well, colleagues, friends, family, clients who are, like I said, a little disenchanted with how this year has started. You host a show on our channel, Live It Up, and just welcome to the show, and I look forward to our conversation. I hope it's of help to the viewers.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate the time and look forward to this conversation as well.
Let's talk about that. So what was the anticipation for some of the people that you work with on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, depending on how often people check in with you that are your clients, and then also from a different perspective of just people you interact with, colleagues, friends, and family. Are you noticing the same thing as me, that people kind of hope this year would bring something new, and January is somewhat off to a great start and in other areas not?
Yeah, this is a really great conversation because, people think that clean slate 2021, and in many ways it can be, if you're doing the personal work and you're creating that and attracting that into your life. In other ways, like with COVID, for instance, it's going to be around for a while. It's not bound to this magical clean slate because it's the new year. It's going to keep on doing what it does best, right? And so we have to find a way to navigate that powerfully. And so a lot of people, I think, do feel like, oh, hold on a sec, I thought we were going to be free to go outside, back to restaurants, back to school, back to life as normal. And so there's some disappointment there. And so what I work with a lot of my clients to do and other people is just to help them navigate that in a way that feels better, and maybe potentially more realistic.
When we talk about how people navigate different situations, when you and I talked ahead of the show on the phone a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about how we are who we are times like 10 in crisis, in conflict, in joy. If we are a giver, we will give. If we are a taker, we will take. And I've said it before, you're the person hoarding toilet paper, or you're the person making sure your neighbor has enough. And there's really no in between. It's just who we are, how we're made. And I think a lot of people over the last year, it's been almost a year, have really started to take inventory on their lives, on their friendships, how they navigate certain family members. I don't talk politics on the show. I don't even want to talk about the vaccine because there's a line drawn with some people about that as well. So we really have to, some of that peace and some of that work and some of that place that we're looking for in the new year has to come from us. We cannot rely on any outside resource to help us through that. So in a step one situation for someone who's feeling like, wow, this year just isn't off to the start that I thought it would be, or I thought the vaccine would mean this and it doesn't, or what is a step one for someone who just needs to start looking within?
Yeah, such a good question. So step one is ask yourself, how do I want to feel? In fact, this is the theme of my year for 2021 is how do I want to feel in 2021? Clearly, I'm going to have lots of different emotions, but how do I want to feel most of the time? And pay attention to your answer. really get clear. The greater clarity you have, the greater access you have to taking actions to produce that particular outcome. So, for instance, I want to feel happy. I want to feel good. I want to feel calm. I want to feel connected. I want to feel hopeful. I want to feel that life is working out for me. And so that's the step one. Get clear about how you want to feel, not about what you want to do necessarily, because your actions always come from your ways of being or your ways of feeling. So you can't go out and be peaceful if the way you're feeling is angry, judgmental, and critical.
I was just going to say that how we feel is different than what we do.
Exactly.
Like there are things that we are going to do to make us feel or emulate what we're feeling, how we treat people, how we treat ourselves, how we treat our bodies, which we'll talk about with Amy in just a moment in the next segment. But how we want to feel is how we start our day, right? That's how we open our eyes and think, okay, everything is still out there the same as it was. How am I going to start my day? Am I going to make my bed first? Am I going to exercise first? Am I going to call my mom and say good morning? How am I going to start my day? How do you start your day, for example, to get that feeling that you want?
Yeah, so great question again. And this morning we got up, and actually one of the things that we do first thing in the morning is we make our bed, because we like a well-made bed, and we like our bedroom to feel good when we go into it. So that's the first thing. Amy came out first, and then after that she did her meditation. I came out, and here's my journal of gratitude. So I wrote a paragraph of gratitudes, and for us this is a practice. And my whole coaching curriculum is called The Practice of Feeling Good in Life, in Business and in Life. And it's really about the practice. It's really about becoming a master in your feelings. And they say it takes about 10,000 hours to become a master, which breaks down to like 9 hours of 5 days a week, 4 hours a day. So we mastered our ways of being. We mastered our emotions a long time ago, and that's why they're automatic. And so if you want to master feeling happy, feeling good in your life, it's going to take a deliberate practice. It's going to create and that's why we have a structure of writing, sitting and being calm, making the bed. All these things contribute to a way of feeling.
And when you talk with clients about that first step in the morning and then the next step and the next step, what is your advice for ending the day? How do you, no matter how the day went, no matter how you hoped it would go compared to how it actually went, what is the practice that you recommend for the end of your day?
Yeah, for me, it's going to be different for everybody, but for me, as I'm drifting off into sleep, I'm usually going through my gratitudes again. I used to have a practice of thinking about what I needed to do tomorrow. And that didn't feel good, right?
Yes.
It's like, oh my gosh, I have to. So I'm already stressing out about that. Mm-hmm. But now I go to sleep and I'm thinking what I'm grateful for or what went well that day. I'm a big fan of noticing what's working well in life, because we're again, most of us are practiced, and myself as well was extremely practiced at noticing everything that was not going well. She wasn't doing it correctly. He said this, the government's this, the school system. I was king of noticing everything that was not going well. And I realized that doesn't feel good, and it's habitual. And so I interrupted that pattern and made a decision to begin living my life from that opposite perspective, where I'm only interested in what's going well, because that feels really good.
Well, and I will say that when I've prayed about something specific, the safety of someone in their travels or something, I know that they arrive safely, I try to be immediate in that gratitude, and again in my end of day, and I think that has helped me, because if I don't express that gratitude in that moment, then at the end of the day I'm thinking, dang it, I wasn't grateful for that in the moment. I should have been. If I took the moment to say a prayer, then I should acknowledge that the prayer was answered, right? So those are some of the things that help me to take care of the moment, and then also reiterate that at the end of the day. We could talk all episode about this. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk with Dr. Amy Ellison. She is the wife of Fletcher, and they host the show Live It Up. We're going to get some true advice about just how we take care of our bodies during this time. And she can help us with that. And then we'll bring them back together on the show in the last episode, in the last segment of the show. We'll be back in just a moment. Now we're talking with Dr. Amy Ellison. She and Fletcher Ellingson host a show, Live It Up, on NCWLIFE on this very channel. And I thought it would be interesting to have a conversation with her about what we can do for our health to feel like we're doing our best for ourselves, to feel good, as Fletcher was saying earlier in the show. Thank you for being here, Amy. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I wanted to start off by saying I think that part of what people struggle with right now is the indoors and the not having the interaction with people and the socialization. And one of the things that I think we've lacked the most, perhaps in my conversations with people, not everyone watching, some people have stuck to their exercise routine and stuck to their healthy diet or whatever it is that made them feel good before COVID and these shutdowns. But for me, I was waiting for my gym to open. Meanwhile, gaining weight, drinking too much alcohol, not sticking to the diet that I was, following before in terms of whole foods and more healthy choices. And I finally got to a point where I'm just like, I'm going to have to do something here at home. And what is an example? And let's chat with you about just the physical part of what's happening to people. And what is just like with Fletcher, what is a one step that we can start to take to have some ownership of how we feel in our health?
Well, gosh, I feel like I could talk for an hour about all this, but I would say that one of the things, like you even mentioned about the exercise. So we have things that we do that make us feel good, that we use for coping, and that we use for stress release, and we use for kind of that resiliency. And I think what you just alluded to was a lot of those things were taken away. They have been taken away from us. And so I think that the thing to do, like if you were to say what's one thing, is you literally think like, what are those things that I used to do that made me, that like, let off steam, helped me with stress, helped me feel better? Because if you don't, and figure out what you could do to substitute, because if you don't do that, then it leads to alcohol, increase in alcohol, comfort foods, binge watching TV, all these numbing things, because we don't have the normal outlets that we used to have, like hanging out with friends, going out to a restaurant, going to a movie, all those things, going to the gym. So I think if the one question, because we all had different things we were doing, is to say, what are those things that really kind of helped me stay balanced, helped me stay on track? And what can I do instead so I'm not kind of floundering and looking for comfort everywhere? Because we're gonna find comfort somehow or another. And you can either choose healthy ways to find comfort or unhealthy ways to find comfort. And obviously we're not gonna be perfect about it, but the healthier your ways of finding comfort are, the healthier you're gonna feel, which obviously, like for, in general, keeping healthy would be, exercise and low sugar and lots of water and not much alcohol and lots of veggies and good sleep and good resilience patterns. So I don't know, that's kind of a big answer.
Big answer. Well, one of the things that I think that what I've found in my own life, I'm a very, and how I navigate my life is I'm careful. I want to be around my parents as much as possible. They're older, and my mom is at considerable more risk than my father, in my opinion. And I've been through some medical things in my life with loved ones and myself. And so this whole hand washing, don't touch doorknobs, don't touch the elevator button, that is nothing new to me. I've been doing it since I was diagnosed with cancer in 1995. And so for me, what I was feeling in not taking care of my health lately, and I'm talking about, I think I was doing pretty good till about September, is my birthday, and then the smoke settled in, and I just kind of just felt the weight of it all coming on, and literally. And what I think for me is I felt like a hypocrite. Like, how can I take these precautions to not get COVID, but then also not take care of my body in case I did get COVID? And that is how a lot of us are navigating our lives. Either we aren't concerned with getting it. We think we're going to be okay. We are concerned with getting it, or we're more concerned with giving it to someone else. I mean, it's just this constant, like, how do you navigate your life on a daily basis based on how you feel about getting or not getting COVID. So for the people who are watching who are not necessarily concerned about getting COVID for themselves, but are definitely feeling the weight of the shutdowns, those are the things you're talking about. Like, revisit the places in your life that brought you joy. And are you seeing that in your patients and in the people that you and Fletcher encounter, and how you navigate your lives with your practice of medicine and his practice of coaching?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the biggest thing that I've seen in my patients has been an increase in anxiety, a disruption in sleep, and weight gain, like you kind of said. So I think that the biggest thing you can do is, because that's what I'm seeing. So what I'm basically having people do is, well, okay, I know you can't get together with your family, but invest in something so you can FaceTime them, so you can video chat with them. So basically just finding substitutions for the things that you used to be able to do. Or families will do like eating out night, where they dress up, where they make, fancy food, like trying to find things that make you feel good, that are replacing the things that you've maybe been doing for decades that used to make you feel good. I mean, so what I'm seeing is people with, like I mentioned, those issues. I don't know that I've had anyone actually feel like a hypocrite, like you're saying, but I think that might just be lack of maybe awareness, because that is true, right? Like if you're really wanting to make yourself kind of as immune as possible to complications of any illness, then you're going to be looking at all those things, sleep, alcohol, sugar, exercise, stress, resiliency. Those are all, huge parts of having your immune system be supported.
I think too, you were talking about how people get dressed and like have a dinner, even if it's over Zoom. Getting dressed is a big deal because I work from home. I had an office that I don't have now during COVID until things open up again, but I work from home, and I have all of my son's young life, but now he's in his 4th year of college, and I'm back here working at home. And it's funny because even sometimes when I schedule the show to record, I think, okay, well, what else am I doing that day? I'm going to make sure I go grocery shopping that day because I'm actually going to shower and curl my hair. And I find that the days that I get up and do it, no matter who I'm going to see, or if I'm recording a show, or if I have a Zoom meeting, it really makes a difference to take a shower and get dressed. It's like making your bed in the morning, right? It's kind of preparing you for a day that could perhaps go well or be incredibly productive.
Yeah, I think that gives me an idea, which I haven't had people do, but it would be, you could even write down, like, what are the things that currently make me feel good right now? Or what are the ideas I've seen on the internet that I want to try? Or maybe what are the things that I really miss that then you could find a substitute for that thing? And just make sure you're doing enough of those a day where you're not feeling like crap, because we're all going to have days. I mean, I feel like one of the things with Fletcher and I that we didn't used to have as much, not that it's conflict, but it's like, this discussion of like, well, my daughter got invited here, or what so-and-so wants to do this. It's like, well, gosh, is that okay? Let's look at the rules. Like, none of that existed. And so there's all this, like, not only do you have your regular decisions that you're making all the time and maybe work-related decisions, but then you have these navigation decisions of navigating COVID. And it can be exhausting sometimes, And so I think even now more than ever, we need those things that rejuvenate us and that make us feel good, and that, like, a little spring in your step, like you said, getting dressed and feeling like you look nice, versus just
smell for yourself
versus like slumping around in pajamas all day.
Exactly. Well, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll bring Fletcher back into the show, and I just want to talk with you two together, since you host the show together and you navigate so many of these principles in your life on a daily basis. So when we come back, we'll bring Fletcher back and continue our conversation. We are back. We're talking with Fletcher Ellingson and Dr. Amy Ellison. We've been talking with them just about coping and how they utilize that practice in their own home. So let's talk a bit as we finish up the show about how you communicate with each other and how you're navigating your own household with all these tools that you have, which not all of us do. So give us an example of a practice in your home that's helped navigate these times.
Yeah. So one practice that we have is called the do-over. And as I was just sharing a second ago, I do most of the do-overs. But sometimes it will be in a conversation. And it's been about COVID issues. It's been about how to navigate this. Where can the kids go? Where can we go? Who can we have over? All that kind of stuff. And so sometimes I get heated about that, and I'll respond in a way that doesn't feel good to me, doesn't feel good to her. And when I catch myself, and I'm really getting good at catching myself, I'll just say, hey, wait, hold on a sec, babe. Could I just do that over? And she's usually super gracious, and she just says, yeah. And I'll say, okay, just ask me that again. And she'll ask me the same question, and I'll say something like, here's my concern, or here's how I'm feeling, or here's what that brings up, or help me understand your side, tell me more. And the outcome of that conversation is usually radically different.
I think it's all in the presentation, right? We just had this conversation with my partner and boyfriend the other day, and he said something to me, and I go, wow, there's like 7 other ways you could have said that. Can I repeat to you how I would have rather heard it? And he's like, oh yeah. And then I said something, kind of like, it made me feel defensive and concerned and worried, because it was about COVID. It's about how he wanted to navigate a certain situation, which directly affects me. So you can't tell me how you're going to navigate. I think it's a discussion about how we navigate that. Would you agree, Amy?
Yeah, I think what I felt now more than ever is like, I'll start to feel stuck in between everyone's desires and concerns. Like, my daughters want to do this, Fletcher wants this, my job is telling me this, Dr. Fauci says this, I think this. And I'm like, I don't know. And so if he gets heated and defensive, I'm like, I just want to be out. Like, okay, I'm not going to talk about this then, unless we can talk about it in a way where I'm not going to feel squished in the middle of everyone's concerns. So I think it's something that really is helpful if we can just like, where do we both stand? And there are definitely times where, because we're a blended family, and my 2 biological children are the ones at home, and he's not as comfortable with some of the things, the athletics they're doing, but I also feel like I can't have my 13 and 17-year-old have like 0 risk. I mean, they would have 0, I just would be concerned about that. But we're still very careful, more careful than anyone else I know. But sometimes that's even not enough for him. So it's been tough sometimes, for sure.
And I think too, blended families, I have many close friends who, maybe both households don't navigate it the same way when the children go to the other home. And that's an entire show for sure.
Right.
And in closing, let's just give the audience something like at the end of this, from either one of you or both of you, that you feel is the best couple advice you can give. The do it over, yes, and these are good tools. But at the end of the day, it comes down to how you feel and how you want to feel, as Fletcher was saying, and how you feel about how you treated people in your family all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the one thing I would say is really expressing how you feel taken care of. Like, what would make me feel so taken care of right now? Because a lot of us are getting maxed out at the end of the day, or different things are happening, and really having your partner help you with that, like help you feel taken care of. But it may require a conversation to actually know what that is. I feel like that's helped me get through this, is when I felt really taken care of by him.
Yeah. And I'll just throw one more thing in there. Also, pay attention to the story you have about what's going on, because that story creates your emotions. So the story that we are constantly reminding ourselves of is that life is always working out for us. We may not understand how it's working out, but we're trusting that life has always worked out for us, is working out for us, and will continue to work out for us.
If you stick around your life long enough, it always gets better. That's what I like to say. Thank you both for being here. Great advice. And I would like to have you back on in the spring when we can share some more based on how the world is at that time.
Sounds good.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Do you want to become part of the most dependable brand of vehicles today? Then start looking at Town Toyota. Come drive the best-selling, totally redesigned 2019 RAV4. Come check out the powerful towing performance of the Tundra It's built for the worksite and the weekend. Forge your own path and seek tougher roads in the Tacoma. Leave no trail left unchallenged. Whatever your vehicle needs, Toyota has a seat for you. Come visit us today.